Still battling some chaos today. I have a dual input system here, feeding forward along two separate paths, and then they both feed to this centralized system here, combined path of the two subpaths. Been training this for quite a while with a pretty standard configuration. And so now the input now originally was not traveling through these paths. Training has increased the weight, so the inputs now travel through these paths. And so as the input changes here, that change travels pretty well to the next node. You can see all the pluses here showing that this pattern is very similar to the one we currently have with the same inputs. As we go on, that gets less and less. So this pattern here is not as similar to the previous. So this activation here back in time is not as similar to that one. Same down here. The level of activations of similarities differs, and even more so that when the combined patterns show up, we really don't see it similar to the previous patterns where it should be. I can run this, sometimes it takes a while for this signal to propagate through, so I can run this a little while longer to see if this activation propagates a little bit more. So after running it a little bit more, now I've got this activation propagating a little bit more through here, and I am beginning to see a little more similarity, which is looking good. Still nothing really here. Let me keep running this. We want to see is a consistent pattern here that's similar to what it was before. So let's see if I can see that pattern. See, even back in time where this should be similar to the one we're currently having. I'm not seeing any similar patterns back in time with either of those earlier ones. So again, we're still introducing a lot of chaos, especially it looks like in this bottom route here, where we're getting chaos relatively early on here in those patterns. So finally, if I run this for a while, I am seeing some bursts of activity here, which is similar to some previous activations, but is really not at this level. We're not seeing that similarity. And it's pretty well a one-time shot of activations that get pushed down. But we are seeing the activations of the patterns go through, especially the common patterns that it sees through training. Let's see how the weights are doing. The weights should be have increased. Yeah, they're not quite maxed out at 1, but a lot of them are up there. One of the problems I'm seeing is that a lot of the weights are getting increased by a significant amount. I need to check my training to see why so many of the weights are being increased. I would expect just a couple of the key weights to be increased from here to active nodes here to active nodes here, rather than all of them being activated. So that might be an issue. Maybe something's wrong with my learning activation rule. So let's try one more thing. Let's try to redo the patterns. I'm going to reset the patterns to different patterns and then run this. So now, rather than the same two standard patterns we've been training on, there'll be two new patterns here. Interesting to see if the activations of these flow through. One of the questions we have is that we're kind of initially the weights were low enough so that the activations did not flow through this, but we want to erode these kind of pathways to make it easier for the activations to flow through here. But right now with the learning rule, it seems like, I don't know if it's just the randomness of the patterns or what, but all the weights are getting increased. And so what I'd hope is that new patterns wouldn't activate the activations wouldn't flow through here because they wouldn't follow the same pathways. But again, it looks like these new patterns are to some extent moving their activations through here. We're seeing even by this fourth pathway here, this pattern is causing activations here and even here. And originally that wasn't the case. So I think I need to investigate my learning rule to see what's going on.